Good evening, everyone. So I'm Mathieu Le Sourd, also known as Maotik. I'm an artist in residency at Factory Berlin since October. A residency they created with, organized with Sonar Plus D Festival in Barcelona. I'm also started to teach at the Code University in Factory Berlin, and just started like 2 days ago. So for people who know my work, I won't go through like all the artwork I've been doing the last years. My idea was to make you understand where I come from and why I use technology to create my artwork. I'm focused in creating immersive experiences, interactive installation, and also audiovisual performances. So I work a lot with technology and code, very into generative art. And I will show you like step by step what is my background and where I come from. So first inspiration was this book from Umberto Eco that explained that an art piece can actually be modified according to the sensitivity of the artist and can be shaped and be modified each time you represent it. So it's not like a timeline based or pre-rendered, like the piece of art can actually evolve through the time and also can interact and change according to external data. So my first artwork I created at during my master in digital art in Barcelona. It's called Alive. It was actually like microorganism that was living in an ecosystem, and the idea was to create a generative sound piece that didn't have any like timeline base or any kind of storyline, but the beginning of the story was a male and a female microorganism that were living in this microorganism ecosystem, and were actually like reproducing each other each time they were like eating to each other. So they would create like a third one, fourth one, and so on, and we're sending like a music note to the system. And after like 30 species that lived, he was actually like creating a third species and fourth species with different like sound, sound themes. So like the idea was to create sound compositions through this kind of algorithm ecosystem. So this is what like 10 years ago, and now 3 years before. 3 years ago, I created this piece called a flow, which is actually an ocean, simulation of an ocean. I was asked by Ars Electronica, they have this space called the Deep Space in Austria, in Linz. And they have like this projection space of 15 meter by 8 meter like resolution. And I don't know why there's no sound. So the idea was to create artwork that actually would change according to information. So the system actually connects itself to external like websites and take like different information like the humidity levels, the level of the sea, the weathercast, if it's day or night, the wind direction and the wind speed, also the moon phase, because the moon actually like affect a lot like the sea, and actually like the narrative of the system change every 2 minutes. So we could connect the system in different places in the world, like cities that are around close to the seaside, and the system actually morph into like something different. So 3 years ago, I started like very like digital aesthetic, but very like a mesh distortion and things. And lately, like I worked more on it, and I managed to create something much more realistic, and it's all real time, and it's connected through the website of API Weathercast. There's also like a system on the floor that tracks the position of the people and create wave on the floor. So this is like my last like compositions, but looks a bit more like advanced. It's still like real time. Like my work actually evolves according to the graphic card. So through the years, you can actually do much more things nowadays that responds in real time. And it was able to be done 5 years ago. So this is one of my last compositions. So another piece that also like get inspired from flow, it's called Aerion. The idea is to create a performance that would change each time I present it. So the idea was to create a drone that fly at the location where I'm located. So if I'm in Berlin or in Tokyo or anywhere, like the system will actually scan the area, the cartography around the space. So what I do, I use Google Map and make like a trajectory in Google Map and use like the cartography as a reference to actually create the content. So the content, audiovisual, the visual content actually depends of the location, and I'm not completely like in control of it. So I have to manipulate my information and then like create like the audiovisual content. So I did it in the installation mode and also like performance mode. But what I like about this piece, it changes all the time according to the location. So I have like a system, a cartography, and then I manipulate like the drone, the virtual drone on the with the joystick to be able to create different content. So this is another like composition that is completely made from algorithm and is being controlled like randomly through the system. Real time and actually take the data directly from the cartography. Another piece I did as well, like all generative, was called Moment. I went to Buenos Aires for Mutek Festival, and I did this collaboration with local artist called Nicola Melman, and I've been working a lot with musicians and electronic musicians. So usually they use a lot of kick drums and tempo and drums, and so it's very easy to make a system that follows the music. In this case, you use a lot of like analog instruments, so it was much more difficult and melody to follow the music. So I arrived there on the Friday, and we had to play on Saturday. I had prepared some stuff. We met in his studio, and I didn't know like how he's gonna be reacting. And actually, everything was going very bad, and he wasn't at all with his aesthetic. So we met, we had the discussion, we had the conversation, and then I came back home, and at the hotel I said, I should do something different. So the idea was to create like an audiovisual piece that reacts to his music. So I took the line output, the sound output from his music, and converted it into like a sound wave, a graphic sound wave. Actually, that was completely accurate according to the music. And then I created this kind of audiovisual, like a digital painting that was really performance tools that I could actually, with a controller, create like a lot of iteration of aesthetic, and also like being surprised myself. So at the end, I created an instrument that I could like change all the time. He works a lot as well, a lot of improvisation. He do like some recording before playing in the place where he plays, where he performs. So like I didn't have any like narrative like input or setup. It was completely like a pure improvisation each time, and I really love this project. So this is other like composition that you can also like reach with the system. It's like a landscape that looks like a very abstract, but it's all made through code. So one of my latest projects is called One Level of Lights. I did it in Portugal in a place called Braga. They have a very nice art center called Generation. And they invited me to do a residency for a nanotechnology center called INL, and the idea was to follow like scientists for 5 days and see their practice, and then to get as much information as I could, and then recreate like an exhibition according to what I live with them. And I didn't know much, like scientists also have the same practice that artists most of the time. They do like a lot of prototyping research, and it's very like, you know, advanced like knowledge in terms of technology to be able to follow them 5 days. So my idea was to recreate the practice into like a abstract and artistic way. So I created this kind of installation with a camera slider and a microscope, very close, cheap microscope, 20 euros I bought, and the idea was to track patterns on the surface and to make it interactive. So the people could actually like rotate the plate, but also move the slider from left to right, and then like analyze these kind of patterns, black and white. And this is actually what they do at the laboratory to actually understand how atoms live and behave in such different environments. So I will create like the same experience and do like this kind of abstract visuals on the screen, but actually is a representation of what the microscope sees. And also I created a VR experience, so like people can check in the virtual reality helmet the 3D atoms living in the world. So there is like two different like visual compositions, and also the sound change according to that. So lastly, I'm going to show you a live demonstration of Bloom. It's a system I created like 2 years ago. It's like a generative plant system that is reacting according to the movement. The idea was to use this sensor, which as you can see at the bottom here, is like a LiDAR sensor, a laser that sends like infrared signals, and actually can track any obstacle that go through these signals. So the idea was to create this kind of generative plant that is also connected to a sound system and can actually react to different movements. But I don't know if there's another artist now. Yeah. Okay, so I'll show it to you later.
Okay, thank you, Maotik. Does anybody have any questions for Maotik while he's on stage? You're the question guy, yeah.
So it's really a personal question, to be honest. But I mean, first of all, like great body of work. Like it was really impressive. And me and myself, I'm kind of like starting to be like a multimedia artist myself. So I was curious to know what was the process between like that first like experiment that you created with the male and female like things, and actually getting attraction from like, you know, institutions to do your first installation, stuff like that. Because, you know, multimedia artist is not as common as photography or stuff like that, and I feel like you have to put a little bit more work to get the interest. How do you feel?
Yeah, I think like each new work is like the end of the last one. So I finish like one work and then get frustrated about what I could have done and I haven't been able to do it. And then I retrace like the structure and just like push it like further. Maybe like all different work compared to an artist that will just like focus on aesthetic, look the same. My work is more about systems, so the way like a system reacts to external data, and how I can give it like a life, and how it can become like an audiovisual sculpture that lives by itself. Nowadays we talk a lot about artificial intelligence, but actually it's just like a more complex algorithm. But all my system work with algorithms, so there is no like also, you know, creators, like my system react very differently each time, so I never get frustrated about, you know, the way it looks, and it surprises me all the time, so this is also like something you push always forward.
Curiosity, no? Like curiosity pushing you forward.
Yeah, and also like different, like working with scientists, I work with chemistry and nanotechnologists. They're really interested because they also have the same practice as artists.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for
Any more questions for Maotik while he's on stage? Yes, we have.
Hi. Did you mention before that you also did a bit of music before you got into visuals?
I mean, I've been doing music for a long time, but I wouldn't say like music, I would say more like sound design. But when I did my master in Barcelona, we studied like sound and visuals. So I started to learn like pure data, Cubase, and MaxMSP. And music has always been like the main inspiration for any kind of work I've been doing. But I don't see myself like a music composer. I see myself more like a sound designer in terms of interaction. And I mean, I can work with sound. I know how it works, but it's just like another field. But it's also another language. If you start to do like composition and things, and I didn't have time for now to make my own music and stuff.
It's cool to learn that your initial inspiration started from sound and then.
Yeah, I'm very into like I work a lot in domes and physical space. So for now, I'm very into like physicality of sound and how it can give emotion to people, but it doesn't have to, you know, have rhythm or tempo, you know. And I like more like the raw side of the music, of the sound somehow, and that's something that is made to, I don't know, to be appreciated in your living room or in a club, you know, somehow. I think sound can also be a physical experience.
Thank you. May I go on? So I have 1,000 questions, but I only will ask one. Maybe for those who don't program at all, so don't know how this algorithm shit works. So how would someone translate this, what you see in a microscope, into a visual art? Can you simplify it?
Yeah, I mean, if you see like flow or like aerion or wavelength of light, actually they're all based on the same system. It's just like, you take an image and you just like translate it in monochrome, so black and white, and you take each pixels, and each pixels actually give you information of black, gray, you know, a gray scale. So if it's white, it's like 1, if it's black, it's 0, and in between actually you have like all these like values. And actually my system actually like extrude 3D in real time and create this kind of crazy shape with this information.
Then I suppose that in all those waves, there is
yeah, the wave as well.
Amount of work to make that look so organic, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, yeah. It took time at the beginning to create like the raw system, the architecture, and then you add more details in the post-production, and also like, you know, it's like, you know, a shader actually like create the texture, then you create like the 3D, and then you create all the image composition. So yeah.
I understand that one.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Thank you. So you can get Maotik very